Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another launch episode of the Boot Nerds podcast. First of all, welcome to the first Boot Nerds podcast episode in 2020. Josh, it is going to be a pleasure to do Boot Nerds videos and podcasts with you in 2020. How are you holding up, my man?
I'm holding up great. As people like to say, new year, new me, which totally does not apply to me at all. No. Doing exactly the same things I've been doing. But it's a new year, and I'm excited for what is to come, starting off strong with what you're holding there in your hands.
Exactly, because what we have right here that we're going to discuss today is the Adidas Predator Archive boots. As you can see, the box is rather special. It has crocodile scales on it as a reference to the Predator rapier, I guess, the early Predator boots. But inside, we have the real gem, which is... these basically, because it's not really, you can't really say it's a boot. It's really a pair of boots where Adidas actually took and slapped, I think, 10 pairs of Predators into one pair of boots, and it's actually quite it's quite special. It's quite something when you see it. What do you reckon?
I think what you could argue about the modern football boot industry is that as good as the boots have gotten. And tell me if you agree, 9 out of 10 boots that come out, I'm like, I kind of already know what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
This is one of those boots, and this is why I've loved the Power Boot series, where it's like, I will not know what those are like until I actually get to try them, because they're just so wild. There's so much going on. The fact that they're mismatched left and right is super weird to me, but it's just, I mean, it's so cool that they incorporated that many Predator elements on one boot.
And the funny thing is that we have seen like mashup boots before. We saw the Nike Watt, the Merc, and you know, the first one, the Superfly 4s, and also the Superfly 6s, and they were all cool, but they only really kind of incorporated, visual references to the boots that they were referencing. But these are actual, Predator elements. They are the OG actual Predator elements that they've slapped on and kind of stitched together into a pair of boots, and it's really crazy. So what we're dealing with here is it's a fusion skin base. So fusion skin is this like new leather technology that we know from the Copa 19 and 20 plus, where Adidas have basically turned leather into a technology by treating it so they can, instead of having to stitch on the leather that you had to before fusion skin and with any other leather type, basically, now you can glue on leather, which means that they can treat it like any other technology. And apart from being ridiculously soft, which you can really see on this bad boy here, it's so soft it's not even funny. It also allows Adidas to basically do whatever they want with it. So you have that as a base, and then you have elements from there's the PowerSwerve, you have the LZ1s, you have the Absolutes. You have a reference to the outsole color on the LZ2s. You have obviously the Predator Absolutes. You have the Predator Pulse, the yin yang, that actually aligns with the Absolute stripes, which looks super dope. You have the Pulse elements, but done in a different execution with little spikes. And then you have like a split tongue color design where you have one black and one red, obviously a nod to the OG Pred colors, but probably also as a reference to the yin yang Predator pulses. So pretty damn cool. And I know you don't have them in your hands, but let me tell you right now, they actually feel like they're supposed to feel, and that's mad.
It is. I mean, obviously, we've been getting the Pred remakes of the Manias and the Accelerators, what I think have gone down in history as like some of the most iconic football boots of all time. But the Predator series has had tons of different generations, and these are kind of like the unsung heroes of the Predator series. So with that in mind, I have a question for you. And what, beyond Predator Mania, what is your favorite Predator?
I don't think my favorite Predator would be Predator Mania.
After. What I mean is like after Predator Mania.
Okay. I thought you just said, there's no one next to Predator Mania. Everyone's favorite Predator is the Mania. End of story. I think it would have to be between the PowerSwerve and the Adi Power. Tell me if you agree.
I don't.
You don't know.
I don't.
I would probably
no.
guess something like because you have really weird taste. So Absolute and X.
No, I liked both of those. I like the X a lot
You like
more
the
than I
X?
think. The X. I
Really?
have 2 pairs of X's.
What?
But my favorite was I really like the Predator Pulse. Like Predator Pulse might be the number 2 on my list of like all-time greatest Predator models. I think the experience of playing in that boot, if you thought the Mania was great, which it is, this is like the refined version of the Mania. They modernized it quite a bit. And honestly, I don't know. I like the way it looks. I like the striking element. I think that was a really good pair of boots.
I agree it was not a bad pair of boots, but it was also, to me, like one of those boots that just kind of slid under the radar because it wasn't as iconic as the Mania or the Absolute that followed it, for that matter, which I'm not the biggest fan of the Absolute. I just thought it was more of the Pulse and thus a little bit more of the Mania. So not bad by any means, but just a little bit, it was a little bit underwhelming. I was going to say, it was a little bit underwhelming in terms of what it did. And what Predator was at that point in time. But yeah, I would definitely say PowerSwerve for me, a fantastic boot. Leather was super soft. I love the elements that weren't too apparent, but they gave you something. And then the fit of the boot was just amazing. Adi Power, super underrated. I know a lot of people are gonna lose their minds, but yeah, I absolutely adored it. Fantastic boot. I still wear it today and really love it.
Yeah, I think of the last decade, that's one of the boots that maybe doesn't get the recognition it deserves, because that was the last great Predator. But we are glancing over one big thing about this new Predator model, and that's what's happening on the bottom, because something we've never seen before from the Adidas brand.
See, that's a new thing, because not only is the color or the tongue or whatever you want to call it, that's new, hinting at something. Obviously, the treatment of the Pulse stripes, these little, I want to call them little spikes. They almost look like little teeth. They're obviously new. The fusion skin treatment is new. And also, as you say, what's going on the bottom, the tooling is also new. It's a split tooling, which is nice, and probably a reference to the Mania and other Predator boots that have had the split tooling. But also just in terms of like new stud configuration, it's just all new, hinting at what might come from Adi, I guess. And it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, we could tiptoe around it, but I think we all know what's next in line to get something to get a little bit of a refresh from the Adi brand. I'm excited about it. If this is how they're going to give us a little tease and it's this cool, I'm very excited about what could be next from the Adi brand.
Same. Let's just, I don't think I should or could say too much, but let's just leave it at a yes. It's all very exciting. But getting back to the boots here and not speculating overly much, it's just wild. I don't really know how to describe it other than it being wild, because obviously it's a lot to take in. The colors are crazy and, you get a lot of elements. But for me, I feel it's a good way for young people who weren't playing football back when all these OG Preds were around to experience what a Pred was back in the day, but without all the weight and the bulky feelings you got from playing in the OG Preds. That's a pretty cool little thing.
Well, your comparison to the What the Mercurial, I think, is a good one, right? Because What the Mercurial was cool because it incorporated all these Mercurial models from over the years, these iconic colorways. But because it was just basically a pattern printed on the surface, you didn't get this sense of all the boots incorporated into one when it came to actually playing in them. I think what's cool about this concept is it shows not only how far football boots have come, because we look at uppers on modern boots and they're almost all like one single piece of material all the way through. But even now, I'm just holding these Predator Absolutes in my hands, and just all the different layers and inserts of material that make this one boot. Like there's probably 100 pieces to this upper, where a modern boot probably has like 5 pieces.
And this is where this is interesting, because it also has a ton of pieces. Must have been a nightmare to create, really.
I'm actually like, when I saw this boot, I thought somebody made a really cool concept and that's it. But the fact that it actually exists and is a real product, like, well done, Adi. I just, whoever's in charge of the Predator department over the last couple of months, good job. You've been hard at work doing some cool stuff.
I agree. I love it. Probably not the color combo I would have gone for. I would have liked something more along the lines of the OG colors, but maybe that's just me. We are talking this this inspiration between Adi Power and the Adi Power launch colorway and that blue from the Predator Absolute, if you remember that. It's just it's not my kind of Predator color, but it is what it is. And
okay, wait. I think it's fair to say this. We both think that the boots are very cool. We both don't really care for the colorway, and I think it's fair to say that not only is the boot weird looking, it's borderline ugly, regardless of colorway. Just because there's so much happening, and there's a bunch of boots that have been put together that are not to be put together. This is like, I'm not sure what they're calling this. They might as well have called it the Frankenstein Predator or something like that, because that's essentially what it is.
It really is, yeah.
The fact that they did it is what's so cool.
And we have all the little details, and this is where, it's nice for nerds, because even on the heel taping, we have a reference to the heel tape on the X, to the LZ1s, and even the insole is colored like the pattern of the Instinct Battle Pack. So there's just a little bit for everyone. And as you say, in my opinion, it's probably not the best looking pair of boots ever, and they just look frankly weird, and they're not supposed to be together. No. But on the other hand, you just gotta appreciate that they've done it. Yeah, I'm repeating what you said. I'm finding it hard to actually express in words how I feel about these, because they're really just so special. It's the most unique pair of boots I think I've ever seen in my life.
It's just so it really highlights how different football boots used to be, right? Like imagine you're 10 years old and like, most of what you've ever really seen in terms of like football boots is the sock boots that we have now. Like they're just so simple, they're so sleek, they're so streamlined. And then you have this backlog, this power boot era where you had all these chunky Predators, you had these T90 laser models. Puma did some really weird stuff as well. Like there was a completely different generation of football boots that when you show a 10-year-old now, they probably wouldn't even guess it was a football boot. I don't know. I like that Adidas is not afraid of highlighting their history, because while the Predator series has turned into something very different now, I love the fact that they're still willing to showcase what it used to be.
Exactly. A quick question before we end off here. If we did the same thing with Nike, like you could just take elements from different Nike boots and slap together, what would you do? And go,
it would have to be a T90 model, because I don't think that you couldn't do a Mercurial. It just wouldn't work. But I'm even thinking a T90 model. I don't know how you would do it. It would be a challenge.
It probably would, yeah. I think I'd go for the Hypervenom Phantom 1 upper. I would probably have the Brio cables from either the Hypervenom Phantom 3s or the Superfly 4s. And then I would have the tooling from the Vapor 11 maybe, and then just whatever, some heel counter from the, let's say, some T90 to make Josh happy.
It'd be cool. I think every brand should do a Frankenstein boot. That would be I'd be excited about that.
Definitely.
I think most people would.
And it's also, like you say, it's a little bit of a missed opportunity. Now Nike have their the boots. Adidas should totally have gone for the Frankenstein name if legal would have allowed them to.
Yeah. In my opinion, like they have just one-upped Nike. Like what the Mercurial was cool and all, but this is like, they win. Like this is just so out there, so wild. And I hope that we get some kind of a response from the other brands, because this is just, it's to me, like this is like early on contender for like limited edition boot of 2020. It's
absolutely.
I don't see how people are going to top this.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, because no matter what they do, it's going to be really, really difficult. So in short, I think we can agree we like it. It's weird, but we like it, because it's so weird that we actually appreciate the effort. But guys, what do you think out there? Is it mental or just, a stroke of genius? You should let us know in the comment section right down below. Don't also forget that if you want to buy the boot, there might still be a couple left on unisportstore.com. I'll link it right down below. Shameless plug. If you want to hear more about what's going on in the big world of football boots, you can either, or do both. You can go subscribe to Josh's channel right over there. He posts almost daily. You can also go and check out what we're doing at Unisport. We post a couple of times a week. And then you can, of course, also go and subscribe to the best podcast on YouTube by clicking the white bubble in the middle of the screen. And with that said, guys, I am JayMike and I approve this message.
Later.
Hi.